The observation deck of the massive council vessel hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 36 species gathered around the central holographic display. Admiral Vex-9 of the Zephyrian Collective adjusted his crystalline viewing apparatus, his compound eyes reflecting the blue glow of Earth's image floating before them. Council members, what we are witnessing defies all established protocols for civilized behavior, announced High Etherian Lamera, her translucent form flickering with agitation. These creatures, these humans, they wage war with a ferocity that borders on madness. The holographic display shifted, showing archive footage from human conflicts throughout history. Rows of armored knights charging into certain death at Agincourt. Soldiers climbing out of trenches into machine gun fire at the Somme. Pilots deliberately crashing their aircraft into enemy vessels during what humans called World War II. General Korthvac of the Corvani Empire, his scaled hide bearing the ritual scars of countless battles, leaned forward in his chair. Even my people, bred for warfare across 10,000 years, have never witnessed such enthusiasm for self-destruction. They fight like cornered beasts, but they do it willingly. They volunteer for it. The statistical analysis is disturbing, reported Chief Calculator Zen Prime, her mechanical voice carrying no emotion despite the horrific implications. In their battle at a place called Thermopylae, 300 warriors chose certain death rather than retreat, not because they were trapped, but because they believe it was the right thing to do. This behavior pattern repeats throughout their recorded history. The display zoomed in on more recent conflicts. Urban warfare in cities reduced to rubble. Soldiers carrying wounded comrades through hostile fire. Medical personnel running toward explosions rather than away from them. Children no older than council cadets wielding primitive weapons against trained armies. Look at this aberrant behavior, Lamera continued, her energy field pulsing with distress. They form emotional bonds with complete strangers and then die for them. They call it sacrifice, but it violates every principle of logical self-preservation. How did such an irrational species survive long enough to develop technology? Admiral Vex-9 clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps more disturbing is their creativity in violence. They turn farming tools into weapons. They use their own infrastructure as ammunition. During their so-called World War I, they filled metal tubes with explosive and threw them by hand. By hand. What kind of mind conceives such tactics? The display shifted again, showing the approaching Devourer fleet. Massive bio-ships, each the size of a small moon, cruising through space toward Earth. Behind them, a trail of dead worlds marked their passage across the galaxy. 17 civilizations had fallen to the Devourers in the past century. Each had followed the same pattern. Initial resistance, negotiation attempts, final surrender, then consumption. The Devourer advanced scouts reached Earth's outer system 2 days ago, reported General Korthvac. Standard protocol suggests the humans have perhaps 72 hours before total planetary consumption begins. Based on historical data, they should be broadcasting surrender signals within the next 6 hours. Should we intervene? Asked Counselor Vrintal of the Aquatic Collective, her breathing apparatus bubbling softly. These humans, whatever their flaws, do not deserve the fate that awaits them. Intervention would violate non-interference protocols. Zen Prime responded immediately. Besides, military projections indicate a 99.7% probability of human extinction regardless of our involvement. The Devourers have never failed to consume a world once they commit to invasion. Lamera's form brightened with what might have been cruel amusement. Perhaps it is fitting. A species so devoted to violence, meeting the ultimate expression of consumption and destruction. Natural selection in action. The council chamber fell silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. On the main display, Earth continued its rotation, blue and green, and utterly unaware of the horror approaching from the darkness between stars. Very well, Admiral Vex-9 announced finally. We shall observe and document. Let us see how these violent primitives face their extinction. The first Devourer ships materialized from hyperspace like nightmares made manifest. 12 massive biovessels, each pulsing with organic bioluminescence, took position around Earth's orbital plane. Within minutes, Concentrated energy beams lanced down from space, turning major population centers into glowing craters. Sydney vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. Mumbai followed seconds later. The demonstration of power was complete and absolute. The council chamber fell in a stunned silence as they watched the familiar pattern begin. Every species they had observed followed the same sequence when faced with devourer might. First came the shock, then desperate attempts at communication. Finally, the inevitable surrender broadcast within hours of first contact. "Transmission incoming from Earth," announced Zen Prime, her mechanical voice cutting through the tension. "Standard surrender protocols should begin momentarily." The holographic display flickered, showing a single human figure in military uniform standing before what appeared to be hastily assembled communication equipment. The man's face was weathered, scarred, and utterly calm despite the destruction raining from above. "This is General Marcus Stone, speaking for the United Earth Defense Command," the human said, his voice carrying across the void with startling clarity. "You have destroyed our cities and killed our people. You demand our surrender." He paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes like steel. "Our response is simple. Come and take it." Admiral Vex 9's compound eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. They cannot seriously intend to resist. The mathematical certainty of their extinction is absolute." But across Earth's surface, something unprecedented was happening. Instead of fleeing from the landing zones where devourer forces would inevitably arrive, human populations were moving toward them. Military units from every nation converged on strategic points with mechanical precision that spoke of decades of planning. Ancient rivalries evaporated overnight as former enemies coordinated their defense. "Look at their mobilization patterns," whispered Counselor Vrintau, her breathing apparatus working overtime in her agitation. "They are not evacuating noncombatants. They are arming them." The council watched in growing horror as humans transformed their entire civilization into a weapon. Children barely old enough to walk were taught to identify devourer biosignatures. Elderly humans rigged their medical facilities with explosives, creating traps disguised as hospitals. Scientists worked around the clock in underground bunkers, reverse engineering devourer technology from the scattered debris of the initial bombardment. "This is madness," Lamera pulsed, her energy form flickering rapidly. "They are sacrificing their entire species for a war they cannot win. No logical species would make such a choice." General Korthvac studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Notice their strategic positioning. They are not attempting to protect their infrastructure. They are weaponizing it. Every bridge rigged to collapse, every power plant prepared for overload, every tunnel system converted into a kill zone. The first devourer landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors. The bioships were massive, each one capable of deploying thousands of warrior forms designed for rapid planetary subjugation. Standard procedure called for immediate surrender upon witnessing their approach. Instead, the humans opened fire. Not just military units, but civilian populations armed with everything from hunting rifles to improvised explosives. The devourers, accustomed to terrified populations cowering in their homes, found themselves facing coordinated resistance from every building, every rooftop, every sewer entrance. "Unprecedented," muttered Zen Prime, processing combat data in real time. Devourer casualties in the first hour exceed their losses from the previous 3 planetary conquests combined. The landing craft touched down in what had once been downtown Tokyo. Within minutes, the area became a maze of death traps as humans turned their own city into a weapon. Skyscrapers collapsed in controlled demolitions, burying devourer forces in rubble and steel. Underground rail systems became hunting grounds where small groups of humans stalked alien warriors with primitive weapons and desperate courage. "Request for reinforcements from Devourer Ground Command," reported Admiral Vex 9, his voice hollow with disbelief. "This is unprecedented. The Devourers have never required additional forces during initial planetary assault. For the first time in their recorded history, the unstoppable Devourers had encountered something that refused to stop." The second week of the invasion brought horrors that made the council members question everything they thought they knew about warfare. Humans had abandoned every convention of civilized combat. embracing tactics that violated galactic laws of engagement so thoroughly that several council members had to excuse themselves from observation duty. They are destroying their own planet to deny it to the enemy, Admiral Vex 9 reported, his voice trembling with disbelief. Nuclear power facilities detonated as area denial weapons. Chemical processing plants converted into massive toxic bombs. They are literally poisoning their own atmosphere to slow devourer advancement. The holographic display showed the ruins of what had once been Berlin. Humans had flooded the subway tunnels with industrial chemicals, creating a toxic maze that dissolved devourer bioarmor on contact. In the American Midwest, entire farming communities had infected their grain stores with engineered pathogens specifically designed to target devourer digestive systems. The humans were waging biological warfare with crops. General Korthvac studied the tactical reports with professional fascination mixed with revulsion. My people pride themselves on warrior traditions spanning millennia. We have codes of honor, rules of engagement, concepts of acceptable losses. These humans have no such limitations. They fight as if honor is a luxury they cannot afford. Look at this behavior pattern, Zen Prime announced, highlighting a series of combat incidents across the globe. Individual humans are voluntarily accepting missions with zero survival probability, not as punishment or conscription, but as volunteers. They compete for the privilege of certain death. In the ruins of Moscow, a single human female had infiltrated a devourer command post by hiding inside the corpse of one of their own warriors. She detonated an improvised nuclear device, eliminating the entire regional command structure along with herself. In Beijing, children have been trained to approach devourer patrols with apparent surrender signals, only to detonate concealed explosives when the aliens came within range. This is not warfare, Lamera pulsed, her energy form fluctuating wildly. This is systematic madness. They are teaching their offspring to become living weapons. What kind of species sacrifices its future for momentary tactical advantage? But the most disturbing development was humanity's rapid adaptation of devourer technology. Within days of the first captured bioship, human engineers had reverse-engineered the propulsion systems. Within a week, they were growing their own versions of devourer weapons using modified Earth bacteria. The aliens who prided themselves on technological superiority watched in horror as humans matched their capabilities through sheer desperate ingenuity. Impossible calculations, Zen Prime reported, her mechanical voice carrying notes of what might have been fear. Human combat effectiveness increases exponentially under extreme stress. Individual units are performing at 300% of baseline efficiency when protecting wounded comrades or civilian populations. Their pack-bonding behavior is not a weakness. It is a force multiplier. The Council observed human soldiers charging into devourer positions with weapons that should have been inadequate, fueled by nothing but rage and determination to protect others. They witnessed medics crawling through hostile fire to reach wounded strangers. They saw civilians forming human shields around children they had never met. This emotional bonding behavior we dismissed as primitive, Admiral Vex 9 said slowly. It makes them stronger. When one human falls, the others fight harder, not with less conviction. How is this possible? General Korthvac provided the answer that chilled every council member to their core. Because they do not fight for conquest or territory or resources. They fight for each other, and that makes them willing to pay any price for victory. The devourer forces, designed to face conventional military resistance, found themselves battling an entire species that had collectively decided that death was preferable to defeat. For the first time in their existence, the unstoppable force had met an immovable object. 3 weeks into what should have been a routine planetary consumption, the impossible happened. Devourer forces began retreating from Earth's surface. The council chamber erupted in chaos as species representatives struggled to comprehend what their instruments were telling them. Confirmed withdrawal of devourer ground forces from 7 major landing zones, Admiral Vex 9 reported, his voice hollow with disbelief. This is unprecedented in their recorded history. The devourers do not retreat, but retreat they did. Human forces had transformed from desperate defenders into relentless hunters. Using captured devourer biotechnology, they had developed weapons that turned the aliens' own nervous systems against them. Coordinated strikes from orbit brought down bioships with Earth-built missiles guided by Devour navigation systems. The humans had not merely adapted alien technology, they had improved it. General Korthvac watched the tactical displays with something approaching awe. They have gone from defensive positions to active hunting. Small human units are tracking down isolated Devourer forces and eliminating them with extreme prejudice. They fight like apex predators. The holographic display showed human soldiers boarding damaged Devourer vessels in zero gravity, engaging in hand-to-hand combat against biologically superior opponents and winning through pure tactical viciousness. They used the aliens' own bioship corridors as weapons, venting atmosphere and creating pressure differentials that crush their enemies. Devourer command structure is fragmenting, Zen Prime announced, her mechanical voice carrying notes of stunned incredulity. Their hive mind coordination is breaking down under sustained pressure. Human psychological warfare has introduced chaos into a system designed for perfect order. The humans had discovered that Devourer hive minds were vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. Radio broadcasts carrying what they called freedom songs disrupted alien neural networks, causing individual Devourers to break from collective control. The result was panic among creatures that had never experienced individual fear. Counselor Vrintal's breathing apparatus worked frantically as she processed the implications. The Queen Mind itself is attempting to flee. In over 3 centuries of Devourer expansion, the Central Command has never abandoned a planetary conquest. The final battle occurred in Earth's orbital space as human forces, flying captured and modified Devourer ships, pursued the retreating Queen vessel across the solar system. What followed was less a space battle than an execution. Humans fought with the desperation of a cornered species that had learned to corner others. Complete Devourer defeat confirmed, Admiral Vex 9 whispered. Queen Mind destroyed. Hive network collapsed. The threat that consumed 17 civilizations has been eliminated by a species we classified as primitive. The council chamber fell silent. On their displays, Earth continued its rotation, scarred but victorious. Across its surface, humans were already beginning to rebuild, incorporating Devourer biotechnology into their infrastructure with the same ruthless efficiency they had shown in warfare. Emergency session, Lamera announced, her energy form pulsing rapidly. We must reconsider our classifications. These beings are not primitive. They are evolutionarily perfect survivors. General Korthvac spoke the words that would reshape galactic policy forever. We call them savages because they fight without honor. We called them barbaric because they refuse to surrender. We were wrong. They are not barbaric. They are simply more advanced than us in the only skill that truly matters, survival. The decision was unanimous. First contact protocols were activated immediately. Humanity would be offered immediate council membership, not as junior partners, but as protectors. The galaxy needed warriors who could face the darkness between stars and refuse to yield. Admiral Vex 9 composed a message personally. To the humans of Earth, you have accomplished what our combined fleets could not. We formally request an alliance. We have much to learn from your methods. The reply came within hours, simple and direct. We accept, but understand, we fight for each other now. All of us.